When we talk about gratitude, I have to always think about the person standing next to me because I am so grateful and I'm so fortunate because I probably get to spend more time with her than her team, than her friends, or than anyone else. And especially during COVID, we've been spending a lot of time together. That's why we're not masked up right now, because we're part of a pod.
We're okay on social distancing.
We're close contacts, and that's all good for me. That's a good deal. But I just say again, I'm so grateful because not only her courage, starting, I guess, just over like 3.5 years ago when she decided to share her personal story. When she opened that door, who knew that that would lead to Recovery Reinvented? Who knew that that would lead to her becoming recognized on a national level and being called upon at the national level to help eliminate the shame and stigma associated with the disease of addiction. And this past April, our very own First Lady Kathryn was a featured speaker for the 2020 Prescription Drug Abuse and Heroin Summit, one of the largest summits of its kind. She spoke alongside Admiral Brett Giroir, who's the Assistant Secretary of Health and Human Services, FDA Commissioner Stephen Hahn, and Admiral Charles Ray of the U.S. Coast Guard. And of course, those three names I just mentioned, those are all key leaders right now in the White House task force related to COVID. She also worked very closely, and I would say become friends with, the National Drug Czar. That's the leader of the ONDCP, Jim Carroll. Worked with Jim Carroll. They co-authored an op-ed which ended up in all kinds of national publications about how ending stigma was the first step towards addressing the national addiction crisis. Back in 2018, the Addiction Policy Forum, she was a national winner for the Pillar of Excellence Award for Advocacy in 2018. And they tapped in to share her story and perspectives on recovery for MTV's. I mean, like, we got our own little rock star here. We got MTV 16 and Recovering series. She's been asked to join the National Board of Trustees of Hazelton Betty Ford, which of course is one of the premier organizations battling the disease of addiction. And also, of course, with the current administration and White House doing so much related to opioid addiction and addiction in general, she's received several invitations to the White House. Most recently, just in September, she was all masked up in there for the Recovery at Work Celebrating Connections Roundtable, where again she spoke alongside of including Surgeon General Jerome Adams was there, and others, and First Lady Melania Trump. But there's a lot of work that she's doing with in-state stakeholders. She has been asked to give commencement addresses this past graduation season for Sitting Bull College and Turtle Mountain Community High School. She's worked with many schools and youth organizations like SAD, Students Against Destructive Decisions, who recognized her with a National Outstanding Contribution Award, which she received down in Arizona last year. And then her own program through Recovery Reinvented called YES, the Youth Ending Stigma Challenge, where schools and youth organizations across the state participated. And of course, she's been a huge champion of peer support specialist in building those programs in our state. But as a final invite, I just want to say, or in introduction, I just need to say, I mean, on behalf of all of us in the state of North Dakota, this list of accomplishments doesn't really even compare to the impact that I know you're having on individuals and in communities. Because I know the number of people, complete strangers, that reach out to you, that want to reach out to you, that have shared with you their stories that they've never shared with anybody else. You've become a pillar in the support recovery community for so many people. And I know that you're changing lives. I know you're saving lives. And we're so lucky. If you're all here, can we get 2,500 people to just get on your feet, get up, applaud, go crazy, and you're going to get a chance to hear the amazing story directly from her, from, again, our most courageous First Lady in America, Kathryn Burgum.
Thank you. I started drinking when I was in high school in Jamestown, North Dakota. And that started my journey with addiction. To most people, it looked like I had a great life. I had a lot of friends, I got good grades, I was involved in everything, student council, I played tennis, I was in cheerleading. But I had these voices in my head telling me that I was stupid, that I always made mistakes, and that I needed to be perfect. Now, my family is very Scandinavian, and some of you watching may be able to relate to what I'm about to say. We're basically Vikings. Our ancestors were traders, explorers, and warriors. And you didn't sit around the dinner table talking about your problems or your feelings or ask for help. And in my high school, there were no resources to help with my struggles. I didn't know how to deal with depression and anxiety and all those voices in my head and not wanting to get out of bed in the morning. When I started drinking in high school, I thought I had found nirvana. It seemed to be the answer to all my problems, and I no longer heard those voices in my head. I thought drinking was the answer until I had my first blackout in high school. And that was followed by 20 years of blackouts and my struggle with addiction. I relapsed over a period of 8 years, and I probably don't need to tell you that those 8 years were living hell. During those 8 years, I had thoughts like, I absolutely need to quit drinking. And I would reach out for help, and I would go to treatment. I would get a little sober time, and then I would compare myself to others who were struggling with addiction. And I would think, I never got that bad. I didn't lose my job. And I would start drinking again. And eventually I would reach out for help, get a little sober time, and then I would think, I can handle drinking now. And I would start drinking again. Every time I relapsed, I felt more and more hopeless. Like I would never be able to do the right thing, get sober, and find recovery, even though I would stay sober for months at a time or years at a time. In the end, 2 things helped me get on the path to recovery where I am now. Number 1, reaching out for help. And number 2, a supportive work environment. At work, I reached out to my team leader and asked for a meeting to talk about something really important. During the meeting, in tears and filled with so much shame I couldn't look at my team leader, I told her about my struggles and that I needed help. And when I finally had the courage to look up at my team leader, there were tears in her eyes and a look of compassion and understanding. I had expected judgment and disdain, but instead, she looked at me and said, let's do this. I'm grateful to say that I have now been in recovery for over 18 incredible years. Thank you. I don't think I would be here today if not for the support I received from my team leader at work all those years ago. So what's so important about my story? Well, I believe one of the important things is connection. Reaching out for help, sharing my story, and connecting with someone who supported me. Connection is more important now than ever with the COVID-19 pandemic. Addiction and mental illness are diseases of isolation, significantly impacted by shame and stigma. And then on top of that, we have increased isolation and disconnection because of the pandemic. Today, we will be focusing on many important topics, including ending stigma, drawing connections between mental health and addiction, adverse childhood experiences, and creating recovery-friendly workplaces. The thing that moves the needle forward across all of these topics is connection. Today is a reminder that you can reinvent recovery from wherever you are. You can take those first steps to finding help. You can share your story. You can develop meaningful relationships, whether it's on a Zoom call, over the phone, or 6 feet apart. One of the silver linings for me over the past 7 months is the increased opportunity to reach out for recovery services and support, connecting with people virtually. Now, initially, I was hesitant to try virtual connections, but after I connected, I realized how easy and flexible this type of support can be. The door has opened wider for people who are seeking support and services because we are no longer bound, or we no longer have the barrier of geography. And virtual connections can be anonymous, making it so much easier to reach out for help sooner rather than later. Shame and stigma prevent people from going to locations to find mental health and addiction services and support. Online options take away the need to walk through the door somewhere because you can connect anonymously. Through these challenging times, it's important to remember that there is so much hope and power in recovery. In my role as First Lady, I've had the opportunity to visit a lot of incredible places, including universities, businesses, treatment centers, halfway houses, homeless shelters, jails, and prison. I see people from every walk of life, different backgrounds, different cultures, different tax brackets, and different occupations. I see them on the highs of their new recovery and the lows of another relapse or rock bottom. And the one thing we all have in common is that we all have the disease of addiction that doesn't discriminate. And we all have the opportunity for a life of recovery. As long as we make the connections, reach out for help, and work hard to stay in recovery. I encourage all of you today to share your stories of hope in recovery or the struggles you have faced in addiction. What you have in common with someone else who has battled addiction and found recovery is a special bond that transcends a lot of things that separate us. During these challenging times, it's important for all of us, whether you're a behavioral health provider, in law enforcement, a business leader, a family member, or someone in the midst of your struggle with addiction, to look at our similarities to foster connection, healing, and hope for recovery. I am extremely grateful for the opportunity to serve the great state of North Dakota as First Lady. But I am even more grateful to just be Kathryn, a face and voice of recovery, helping to eliminate the stigma of the disease of addiction. Join me and share your stories of struggle, hope, and recovery. By doing so, you will be normalizing the conversation around addiction and mental illness and helping to eliminate stigma, paving the way for more people to reach out for help, make connections, and find a path of hope and recovery. Thank you.